welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to make a cheesecake, and not just any cheesecake. I wanted to switch it up a little bit. I've never tried this one, so I am going to do it today, but I'm confident. I'm going to make what I'm going to call a chocolate covered pretzel cheesecake. So before we begin, let me tell you, to make a cheesecake, it is important that you start with a pan of water in your oven, because that's going to create steam, which is going to keep your cheesecake from cracking down the center. You might have a little bit of crackling in the edges, and we can even do things to minimize that. But if you don't want to crack down the middle of the cheesecake, and so many times I've tried to do without the water and be like, I'll just bake it gently. No, you need that pan of water. So right now my oven is completely cold. So open it up, you can see I've got my pan in there, and I filled it up about 1/2 to 3/4 full of water. That's going to create the steam we need, and right now the oven's completely cold. So now, while I'm getting everything going, I'm preheating the oven to 350 degrees so it can be ready, waiting on me when I'm ready. Okay, so today I did say chocolate covered pretzel. So the pretzel is going to be the crust. So I need 2 cups of some smushed up pretzels. You can do this in the food processor. You could do smush them by hand, or take a rolling pin, put them in a plastic bag and just kind of smush them. You could put them in the blender, whatever you want to do. And most of it is just kind of, there are pieces, you can see there are bigger pieces, and then some of it's dust, and that's perfect. Because you don't want it all to be big pieces or it won't stick together. And you don't want it all to be dust or to be too dense and salty. So, got a mix of each. So, 2 cups of pretzel pieces. To that, I'm gonna add a 1/2 cup of sugar. And I'm gonna stir this up. Now, if I was going to do a graham cracker crust, I'd need 2 cups of graham crackers, but no extra sugar. That will make the crust too hard because graham crackers already have sugar. And to this, I'm going to put in a 1/4 cup, which is 1/2 of a stick of butter. And I'm going to put that in there, and that's just going to help everything stick together. So everything is in there, stirring it all up. Oh, I had a whole one I didn't smush up. We're gonna put that one out to the side. I'm gonna look for those. It'll still go in. I just need to break it up. I don't want a whole one, and this was nearly whole. Smush that up. It's a good way to get some frustration out too. If you have frustration you want to take out on the poor pretzels. Okay, I'm gonna smush up that remaining pretzel. Add it back, and then I'm going to have a springform pan. So this is a springform pan. It's got this little buckle on the side that releases, and it makes it a little bigger, which pulls all apart at the same time, but then you set the bottom. So we're going to pour the pretzel pieces into that pan. I'm trying to put you at an angle where you can see very well. Ooh, I did not get that mixed up because you can see that white right there. I've got a mound of sugar, so stirring more in the pan. Okay, now I'm going to take the bottom of my cup, my measuring cup that had the sugar in, and I'm going to just smush the crust down to try to make it all hold together. Because we've got the butter, which is going to help hold it together, and we've got it into smaller pieces, so that's going to help. So when we cut it, it would be great if we didn't have pretzel dust going everywhere. That's the goal here, to press it down so when we slice it, it looks like a crust and not just pretzel dust. Might have needed a little more butter, but I'm just going with it right now. We'll see if when I cut it and I have pretzel dust going everywhere, I'll know next time to increase the butter a little bit so it's wetter, so it stays together. Okay, Just smishing that down really hard. Now the edges, some of them didn't get quite pressed in, but because it's pretzel pieces, some of them won't do that. Now, if it was complete pretzel dust, it would press together very nicely. But then, as I said, you'd be too salty. So anyway, it's imperfect and that's all right. Okay. So all of that is going to the side. Put the dirty dishes over there. And so now our crust is ready for us when we're ready for it. So I'm going to bring you very slowly so you don't get seasick. I'm going to bring you over to my mixer. Okay. So let me take this time to tell you, for every cheesecake I make, I use 4 blocks of cream cheese, a cup of sugar, and a teaspoon and a half vanilla, and 4 eggs. Everything needs to be room temperature. That's the filling for every cheesecake I do. 4 eggs, 4 cream cheese, a cup of sugar, some vanilla. Now, if I wanted to make it a chocolate filling, I would also do a half cup of cocoa powder, which I have here. You could do peanut butter, you could do chips of, chocolate chips, butterscotch chips, whatever you wanted to do to give it variety. But this is my basic cheesecake. 1 cup of sugar, 4 eggs, 4 cream cheese, and about a teaspoon and a half of vanilla. And then in whatever crust you choose. The crust is always going to be 2 cups of either graham cracker crumbs, or if you're going to use pretzels, you'll do a half cup of sugar too, and a 1/4 cup of butter. Okay, so let's get it together. I've got in here 4 blocks of cream cheese. It's room temperature. I'm going to mix that until smooth. Remember, if it's not room temperature, you're going to have pieces that won't incorporate, that just don't mix in. So you'll have lumps, and that's not good. But also too, if this is cold, then it will stay lumpy. Or even if this is room temperature and you use cold eggs, that could make this cold and make it want to seize up again. So first, we're going to beat this until it's smooth. Right now, just the cream cheese. Just the cream cheese is being blended. You want to make sure that is nice and smooth, that you use your rubber spatula and you scrape the edges. Make sure you're getting everything. And it's okay if this takes several minutes. Give it as long as it needs, because the more room temperature you get, the longer you beat it. You're not going to hurt it by going long, okay? You're actually going to help it. And sometimes it feels like, wow, I'm doing this way too long. You're not. You're actually making it very smooth, which is going to help it in the oven, okay? So what I'm going to do, this is going to take a few minutes, okay? Right now it looks ready, but it isn't. Okay, so I'm going to pause my video. I'm going to get it very smooth, then we'll add other things. Okay, I'm showing you now it's very smooth, and this is just cream cheese. That's all that's in here. You want it to be very smooth, very whipped, and then put it back on your mixer, and to that you're going to add a cup of sugar. And once again, blend it for as long as you need until it's very well mixed together. There's no clumps of cream cheese, and give it as long as you need it. Okay, I gave this plenty of time to mix. I'm going to turn it back on slow, and I'm going to add these eggs one at a time. Remember, these are room temperature eggs, so it doesn't make that cream cheese want to turn back into a block. Just kind of one at a time, and I'll put the mixer down low, because if I didn't, it would slosh egg all over me. Not a good look. That's all the eggs. Now I can turn it up higher. Then get those blended until it's smooth, being sure to scrape the edges, because your mixture will want to sling any clumps up to the side, and they can just stay there and even kind of grow as other pieces hit it. Now, this is the part where everything in here is kind of white ivory color. you want to be very sure you don't have any lumps not hanging on the bottom, on the sides before you add the powdered sugar. Not powdered sugar, the cocoa powder. The cocoa powder. Because if you add the cocoa powder right now and you've got lumps, they take forever to mix in, if at all. But mine looks very smooth, so I'm going to turn the mixer off and I'm going to add the cocoa powder. And then starting out very slow so I don't have cocoa powder slung everywhere. Slowly increasing the speed. You can see what that looks like. And I will go ahead and very gently add the vanilla. Actually, if I'm smart, I'll turn it off or down low and then go back up because I don't want to wear vanilla either. And now I'm going to scrape the sides again because you have lumps of cocoa powder, you've got clumps of the white filling. We want it all to mix in to be a lovely chocolate color. I'm going to pause the video because I'm going to give this a few more minutes to get completely incorporated. Okay, so now this is thoroughly mixed. You can see what it looks like. You can see the air bubbles in it, but there are no lumps in there, or at least I don't think so. I looked carefully for them. So now this gets poured right on, well, that'd help if you could see it. Gets poured right on top of our pretzel crust. As you can see, no bits of white in there. That's where the unmixed filling likes to lie, is down in there in the bottom. Now on this, I'm very careful not to go scraping the sides because that's where you can really drum up a lump or something that you didn't intend to be there and didn't know was there, is sometimes hiding in those sides. And this is a very full pan anyway. So I'm going to tap it a few times to let the air bubbles kind of come to the top so you don't have holes in your cheesecake. Now I've got 2 racks in my oven. Remember, the bottom has the pan that's half full of water. This is going on the top rack and I'm going to cook it for an hour at 350. Okay, so the timer has just gone off and it will look like this. Notice we have some cracking on the sides, and if you look, there is still some water left in that pan. I'll jiggle it so you can see. Still some water left. Pulling this out, see, it's still a little jiggly, but that's okay. It will set up as it cools. So I'm going to pull it out and let it cool completely before I put it in the refrigerator overnight. Hi, and we have let our cheesecake set overnight. So it is lovely. Notice there are no cracks going across the middle. We had a little bit yesterday along the edge, but they're just very minimal and they're to be expected. All right, so what I do is take a knife that's not so sharp, and before I undo the buckle right there on the springform pan, I like to go around the edge and make sure that it hasn't stuck anywhere. Kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to be like when you unmask it. Okay, I think that's got it pretty well. Now we're going to undo the buckle. Just lift it and gently make it looser. And then when it's all the way loose, you can raise it up and voila. Put that out of the way. And got a little, because I used pretzel crumbs and they didn't all completely stick together, it's a little bit crumbly. So it makes a little bit of a mess there. But you can see the edge of our crust. Okay, so we still have it on the bottom of the pan, so there's that base. to cut it, when you make your first cut, you'll go ahead and have this beautiful slice. And then to do the second cut, you need to clean the knife. Otherwise, you'll have leftover cheesecake, the part that stuck to the knife, on top of the next slice. Not the most appealing look, but we're going to go ahead now. I could just go ahead and cover this in chocolate sauce and present it that way, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut it into slices, and then as I serve each one, put some chocolate sauce on it. So I'm gonna cut it all the way down to the crust. You see? That's what happens, it sticks to the knife. So I've got this little bowl that I'm just going to scrape the edge so I get nice clean slices. Do the other side, so I'm going to scrape again. Didn't get that exactly center, but that's okay. Awesome. Loving the way that looks. See, I get little piles of pretzels because I had a pretty thick crust in there, and that's okay. And I just keep trimming so I get pretty nice slices, but that's all we'll do for now because I can't wait to show you this. Lift it up. Look how awesome that looks. I'll go ahead and put on a saucer. Pretty cool. And so it's got the pretzel crust underneath of it, and I'll go in there and I'll serve it with a little bit of pretzels on the side. But before I do, I'm going to get some chocolate sauce and drizzle over the top. Okay, and there it is. I've put some pretzel crumbs there and just going to drizzle it lightly with the chocolate sauce, and probably somebody will come and get the container and just load it full. But that is gorgeous. Awesome. I hope you try to make cheesecake because it's awesome. Talk to you again soon.